Othering Podcast explores the world of marginalized communities with a focus on the disabled and LGBTQ+. In our discussions, we will provide a platform for our guests to advocate and share their stories. By delving deep into their difficulties and successes, we will explore the changes necessary to improve lives everywhere. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Othering Podcast with Mike and Dory.
Hello.
Hi. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Okay, today we are talking to Anne Mok. She navigates life as a blind content creator, a disability advocate, and a best-selling author based out of Vancouver. She recently published a new book called Resilience and Purpose, which is very good, by the way.
Yes.
She lives with a cone rod dystrophy, a very rare inherited eye disease that we will talk more about, and it's gradually taking her sight. Leveraging social media, she creates content that bridges understanding between sighted and blind communities. Her work spans accessible beauty, travel, tech, and fashion, and always with a focus on making the world more inclusive. She also explores what it means to be othered in everyday life, and how storytelling can reclaim space, foster connection, and spark joy. Welcome, Anne. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, it's a very great pleasure to meet you. I'm excited to talk to you. We've been waiting forever to be able to talk to you. We've been counting down the days, like, yay, Anne's next.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to chat with you both. And like as mentioned, it's been a long time coming, so I'm so glad to be here and speaking with you both and just chatting it up.
First off, I want to say your book is really good.
Yes.
I loved reading it. It was so like, God, now my brain's going fried. Sorry. It's just, it speaks in so many different ways of just everything that you go through with loss and of not only people, but loss of self. And it just, I felt like I was right next to you, like I was with you. I know that sounds weird, but it felt like I was, going through that with you. And it was really kind of healing for me. I'm not losing my sight, but losing my sense of self with my back problems and my leg problems, it's kind of similar. And dealing with that where you feel like you're kind of lost, even though you're not, you're still you, but it's just, it takes a bit to kind of get there in your own mind, even though everybody else is like, but what's the big deal? You're you.
And I think that's something I really wanted to share in the book too. And that even though, my losses may be different from someone else, I think we feel the same. We can empathize and we can have compassion for each other. And I think always leading with kindness. We never know what people are going through. But a lot of times when we do share our stories, we can find that connection and we can help each other through the healing. I think that's a big part of it. And when I wrote the book, it was really a love letter to everything that I've gone through, but also to pass on to my kids as well, because I didn't want them seeing me give up on life. And I wanted this for them to hold on to should they ever go through anything like this, whatever it may be, grief, relationship struggles, a diagnosis that you never thought that you would have. And how do you work through it, or how do you carve that path to get to the other side? Because when you're at the very, very bottom, you don't see any help or hope. And if I could just reach out my hand and help that someone and lift them up, then I think that's the lasting legacy that I want to be able to leave.
I'm sure
That's
you've
beautiful.
reached, and I'm sure you've reached like thousands upon thousands daily with that. And I would say, millions. And just the fact that grief is kind of a universal unifier, I would think. Everybody has felt the grief of losing something or someone that was extremely important to them, that shaped their life, whether it was for just a split second or for, your entire lifetime.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
having that, I think, kind of gives us an advantage of being able to put a lot of other stuff in perspective and see the beauty even when, you hit that rock bottom because, you're depressed and you're hurting, but you kind of get the feeling of, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that's going to go through this, that's going to have this. And sometimes it's hard. Like, I admit that there are times when the grief will still kind of smack me in the face. And even though it's been years, and you want to kind of curl up or say, why now? Why me? And then it's like, you know what? Why not me?
And a lot of times we don't know when we're going through it.
Right.
Because people are like, oh, you'll find the good in this, and you're like, where?
Yes.
How?
That's the one thing I hate is, there's always a silver lining. What are you talking
like,
about?
What? Yeah. And it, it's not until it can hit you many years later that you look back and think, okay, you know what? There is a reason for something, and whatever I went through back then is helping me now today. And it's not a straight line. It's like some patch that opens up later, and you realize, okay, I got through that. I can get through this as well. But it is a challenge, and it's so hard when you're going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the first few chapters of your book, without giving too much away, you went through a lot, a whole lot. So, like, what would you say is your biggest tip for getting through stuff like that? And a lot of it is the grief of losing yourself and others around you, loved ones. How did you get through that and really come out on the other side to be such a wonderful, great advocate? Yeah.
Going through that, I think you have to go through it. You certainly do. You've got to feel all the feels. You've got to really get into the depths of it, but don't let it sink you. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And it's looking for those cracks of light that can give you a little bit of a path that will help you. I think that is it's so hard, and anyone who's going through it, it's a struggle. But I think just take it one day at a time, take it one step at a time, and that not everything has an answer. I think coming to that acceptance and that realization, it's a slow process, but eventually you'll get there, and know that there are people around you and that there are people to support you. And for me, I had a very good social network of people, but nobody that truly understood. And it wasn't until reaching out later, even through social media, that I could find connection. And then with that light, you find a little bit of purpose. And then you kind of just build on that. And it takes one step at a time, one moment at a time. And nothing makes sense at first. And you don't know why you're doing it, but just keep going and know that you have value and you have purpose and you have something to offer the world, because we're all so unique and so precious, and you are precious too. So don't forget that.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where, when you're in the throes of the despair and the anger and the denial and everything, is that the denial part kind of robs you of the knowledge of there is a reason to keep going.
Yes, absolutely. And we have to go through those stages. We're happy they are. We have to go. We got to go through them to get to the other side.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I've learned, is that if you don't go through those stages, every single one of them, and let yourself feel them, that you just end up kind of a shell. Stuck.
Yeah.
And
you get stuck. Yeah, you get stuck in your own self and your own mind and where you are in life. And when you get to that other side, you will realize that it's actually better than you even thought.
That is
just keep on going.
And I think we all get a little stuck while we're going through it, when we're starting to wonder, why is it us? Why me? Why me? But yeah, once you get through it and you can push through, that's when you hit that other side, and it's what we all need.
Yeah. And like I said, sometimes if you reframe the question, why not me? Why can't I go through this and be better, do better, and help other people? Because when I was hitting my rock bottom with my diagnoses and just everything kind of hitting me at once, and I felt like, why me? Why am I going through this? And I don't deserve to be happy. I don't deserve what I have. And then it's like, I hit a point, but if I don't deserve it, then why do I have what I have? Why did I fight for it then if
Yes.
it's not worth it? And that's kind of when I started coming out like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Of course I deserve it. I worked hard for it. I wouldn't have wanted it if I didn't, deserve it. And sometimes it takes a while to see that.
Yeah.
And, your brain on the other side will be, no, 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 don't let go of that hatred for yourself or, whatever's going on. And I see it as a battle. Kind of like those cartoons where you have like the devil on one side and the little angel on the other. It's kind of like that when you're going through that, where half of you's like, but this is a growth and that you can grow from this. And then the other half is like, no, you're just stupid. You're going to stay right here.
And I've even found, like, once I've made it to the other side, that other people that have gone through struggles, I think they are the most amazing people.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to be part of this community and embrace this community. And I've learned so much from so many people. And I think that for me has been such a blessing. Not only going through my own things to find myself on the other side, but to find this amazing community that is so compassionate, so kind, empathetic. And I could say in my other life, I didn't find that many people like that.
Yeah. And I hate to say that, I don't like the fact that we have to suffer. I don't
Yeah.
like anybody suffering. But if we didn't suffer and get these awful diagnoses, to be able to share and talk about and commiserate with each other, we wouldn't have met each other. And,
Exactly.
you guys, I've said it 1,000 times and I'm going to say it 1,000 times more.
I think every episode we mention it.
I'm going to always say this. You guys truly helped me see light. And
Yeah, and I would say the same for so many others too. I'm just amazed at what the strength that people have within,
yeah,
and it helps me when I'm in my down times too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
I'd look at you all's pages and I'd interact with you guys and talking with you. And sometimes it's not of anything of importance. Just, hey, how's the weather where you are
Yeah.
type of thing. Something innocuous like that. But those little connections and knowing that we all are, suffering from something, but we're using it to help others and
Yeah.
come together and be compassionate with each other has healed me in so many ways that I didn't even realize could be even done or had to
Absolutely.
do with it.
Even like this past week, I've been going through like a really down phase, like just with adding new diagnoses and things, and it's really taken me out. Like, but the community support that has been built, I'm thankful for every connection because it's helped me to realize that I'm not alone in this, and that that there are people there listening to me and supporting me and understanding me, and that helps me to get through it. Even though at home I might be isolating myself, but I know that there are people that are commiserating with me.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly.
So let's move back a little, start back at the beginning here, and especially for the audience. I feel like Dory and I kind of know, but can you kind of talk about when you got the diagnosis and more about what exactly cone rod dystrophy is?
Sure. So I was diagnosed with cone rod dystrophy in the middle of raising my kids. So they were in their teenage years, and they were in hockey, swimming, taekwondo, and I noticed that I wasn't able to see the things that I know I should be able to see. At the same time, I was also going through health issues with my husband. That's detailed in the book as well. And I was the primary breadwinner, the primary caregiver, and I was working 2 and 3 jobs just to survive, for the family to survive. And so I wasn't seeing what I knew I was supposed to see. I couldn't see those street signs that I've driven hundreds of times, the same road. I couldn't see the license plate in front of me. And I thought, something is not quite right. And there was a time where I was driving, and there was a crosswalk, but I couldn't see the pedestrian coming in front of me in my central vision. And I had to stop quickly. And that really scared me. And I was really struggling with the time between when it's turned to dusk, the lighting changes. I just couldn't see. And so on my own, I decided to give up driving. And that in itself was a huge challenge because the family depended on me. And I had to ask my husband to do some of the driving, which was already hard for him with his condition. So that became a journey where I was looking to find out what was wrong with me. And I would go to the eye doctor, and it was took about 8 years for me to get a diagnosis. At about the eighth year visit, I said to him, I think I need contact lenses. Maybe if I stick them like right up against my eye, maybe I could see better. But it actually made it far worse. So then he sent me to a retinal specialist. And that's when the retinal specialist was the first person to say, I believe you. Because I really thought I was having psychological issues at this point in time. Because no one believed me, no one understood me. But I knew deep down something was wrong. And so we went on a 2 year journey after that, and I was finally diagnosed with cone rod dystrophy, which is a rare inherited genetic condition where the cones and the rods, that the central vision and color vision and depth perception, those cells are dying at the back of my eye. And they say it's genetic, but I don't know anyone in my family that has it. But I also come from an Asian culture where we don't talk about disability as well. So it could have been, but nobody ever talked about it. So that's how I got diagnosed with cone rod dystrophy. And that exact day that I was diagnosed, I got my dream job. So I had to like go to HR in the afternoon to sign my contract. But I literally was living a double life for many years because I didn't know how long I had. I didn't know the scope of it, what was going to happen. And I still needed to support my family. So that's where my vision loss came in.
And the fact that it took 8 years is part of what kind of is upsetting too, is that
Yes.
you try so hard to write down everything that's bothering you, that's wrong, that you've noticed, and then when they just kind of like, yep, sounds nice.
Yeah,
Anyway,
you're
I don't know
fine.
what you're talking about. And, it's frustrating to have, those moments where it's like, why are you ignoring me? I know my
Yes.
body. I may not be a medical doctor, and even they get gaslighted too,
Yeah.
but it doesn't make sense. You know,
And it's about every guest we talk to has the same
Mm-hmm.
issue.
and
Yeah, and
it's,
it's scary and sad.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was working in healthcare for a long time, so I knew how to advocate for the patients that I helped, and I was constantly advocating for myself, and I was also advocating for my husband, but yet I couldn't get anyone to believe me.
And that I don't understand why.
It's wrong.
Yeah,
Because again, we know our bodies. Just like, they always say, your children best. So tell the doctor, and the doctor listens usually when you tell them something's going on with your kids. Why can't they listen to us when we talk about our own bodies? It's not like, we hang up our bodies at night and, put them away in the closet. And
I'm sure you wish you could.
yes, sometimes I do.
yeah. I'm gonna hang up my eyeballs.
Yeah. I think that would be awesome during Halloween, though.
Yeah,
And
that
so
would be great.
if we can't do that, then listen to us.
Yes. And you're going at it constantly. Like it's not 1 year, 2 years, it's like
Yeah.
8 years. And
Yeah.
I gave up driving. It's not like there's so many people who shouldn't be driving and they're driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that you gave up driving, you gave up the freedom of driving. And that's kind of a big thing.
That's huge.
And yeah, and it's scary to have those moments taken from you. And then somebody says, "Ugh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just fine."
Yeah.
And the fact that you had to stick something in your eyeball
Yes.
before they finally
prove
said,
it.
"Yeah, you know what? Maybe this is wrong. There's got to be something wrong. It shouldn't
Yeah.
have to be that way. You shouldn't have to like stab yourself in the leg and say, 'See, my leg's messed up.'"
Yes.
So, can I ask a
Yeah.
stupid question? Are
Sure,
there
sure.
any vision aids that can help you? Glasses or contacts or anything like that?
Glasses, I have a little bit of prescription in my sunglasses, and that just helps a little bit with the central vision that that I still have. So that's good. But a lot of it is like I see very blurry, and the light perception is decreased,
Okay.
and my peripheral is gone too. And even just during the day, it can change quite a bit. I can have see something, and then I cannot see it later. So I do use a white cane to help me to just detect obstacles. And with vision loss, And it's something that I learned as well. It's not black and white. It's actually, as I say, a spectrum. So many can still see something, but it might be blurred, or there might be spots, or there might be edges taken away. So it's different for everybody, because I thought like I'm going to go from 0 to 100 just like that, but it hasn't been like that.
Yeah, I mean, a former family member of mine was blind from like probably about age 2 because he got I can't remember the type of cancer it was. It was an ocular cancer,
Right.
and they had to basically disconnect his one eye, his good eye, and they took out the other one. And he could kind of see peripherally, and but he couldn't see straight forward. And he was talking about all the time that it's always a spectrum. Like some people with the exact same thing could see nothing, or
Yes.
they could see light but not, dark, or they'll see shadows, and that's an important thing to kind of note because we're not a monolith.
Yeah.
Just because we're all disabled doesn't mean we're all sitting in wheelchairs, just with paralyzed legs.
Yes. And
And
we get that a lot, where it's like, oh, you don't look blind. And then you have to like
yeah,
explain yourself.
yeah. What does that
And
look
that's
like?
so hard
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah, that's a really stupid comment. You don't
Yes.
look blind.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was a specific
A
look that you have
special
to
look,
have.
right?
Yeah, I guess you were supposed
I
to
think,
put the eye patches on both eyes or
yeah.
something, and it's
But we get a lot of that from like media and television.
yes,
So it's not telling the full scope and the truth of what is actually out there for those of us that struggle with disabilities, because it could be dynamic, it could be, temporary, it could be permanent. We just don't know, and we can't judge people, right?
right. I mean, Little House on the Prairie. I remember an episode where the eldest daughter went blind, and
Yeah.
throughout the whole time, all she did was just stare off into space.
Yeah.
Blind people don't necessarily do that.
No,
They
no,
blink too,
no, no. I actually could look somebody straight in the eye,
Yeah, and it
and I
was
could give
just
them a wink too.
my my family member that was blind. He could blink, even though he had a fake eye, and he could move his eyes around and things like that. It's not like they just look into space past you.
Yeah.
Some may
Yeah.
do that, but
Yeah.
it kind of gives this idea that, oh well, blind people all are just going to sit there and stare at you unless they have glasses on.
Yes, yes. Or that we don't care, how we look or anything like that.
Right.
And there are so many people, like there's, those that use a cane or a guide dog, but that's actually just a small percentage. There's so many people walking around the world that are struggling with low vision, and you just wouldn't know.
Now, you mentioned that in your culture that you don't necessarily talk a lot about disabilities, and I wanted to mention that because it is prevalent amongst my family as well. We did not know anything about certain family members. Like they just kind of dropped dead on us, and that's all we knew. And
Yeah.
I don't think that it is a service for any of us.
Helps no one.
No, not at all. It's frightening to find things that are like genetic, such as eye problems, heart problems, and you go through life and then you discover it like at a later age, and you're just like, but nobody said anything. How is this genetic? And that's
Yeah.
scary to me because if nobody tells you these things, how do you prepare for the future?
Yes. And then when it happens, you have no one around you to talk to, and no one to identify with. And I live in a big city, and not seen an Asian person with a white cane. Like and that it was hard for me to accept using a white cane because I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine it's different, especially when you lived for a long time with good vision and you were used to your old self.
And even like in my family, like, they support me, but yet it's like we don't really talk about like how are you doing? How are you really doing?
Yes.
I know that.
And that's kind of like how my family was growing up, where, well, they died or they had cancer kind of thing. And it's like, we need to talk about these things. We need to tell, yeah, they had cancer. They had heart problems. They had eye problems. And it's nothing to be ashamed of because a body isn't going to be perfect 100% of the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. We should be
And
proud of what we have and what we can
absolutely.
get.
And I remember when I was like at my lowest, I wanted to find people who had my condition. And I wanted to know if they were out there and if they were surviving. And if they were surviving, are they thriving? Like
Right.
that was something I really, really wanted to know because I wanted to get out of this hole and find my way out and know that like I could make it out here.
And that's part of why I want to do this too, is because having that background of everybody's quiet and nobody says anything and being mixed and not always seeing yourself anyway.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to be able to say, yeah, I'm mixed. I have disabilities. I'm here. And, if I look like somebody, if I remind you of somebody, awesome, because then you can see yourself.
Yes. And anyone who is newly diagnosed, they can see themselves and others and they can know that, they're not alone.
Yeah. And that's a big thing because when you get the diagnosis, as we've said before, you feel alone. You
Hmm.
feel, oh, it's just me. Even though there's like thousands upon thousands of other people that may have the exact same thing, you still get that isolation immediately.
Yes,
And
exactly.
oh, it's just me. How did I get it? And it hurts when you don't see anybody that's similar to how you look or how, who you are. And
Hmm.
you just see like limb difference or when there's nothing wrong with that. But
Hmm.
when that's not what you have, sometimes it kind of compounds and, just grows with the isolation of it's just me.
Yeah. And even if that in that journey of trying to discover what you have, like if you're sharing that journey, then others will know, like, what, I'm feeling these symptoms too. Because where do we run to? Run to Dr. Google, right?
Right.
And like if we could like find people who's like, okay, I'm going through something similar too. Like, how are you navigating it? That helps us as we move along in this journey.
Yes, very much so. Especially because it takes us, on average, anywhere from 5 to 15 years to get a diagnosis for anything,
Yes, yes.
and which is sad.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, cancers and ocular problems, back problems, all of those. 5 to 15 years on average for men and women to get diagnosed. So by the time we find out what's wrong with us, it could have been cured. Not all, but some could
Yeah.
have been cured. And yet it ends up worse because it took so long.
Yes. And that's a huge chunk of your life that's taken away
Yeah.
from constantly fighting and battling to figure out what this is.
You feel alone, you're battling it, you're trying to figure it out. So then when you have Google and you have all of us out there saying, well, these were my diagnoses and this is what I felt, it helps.
Yeah.
Even if, everybody's like, well, you shouldn't trust Google. And, well, yeah,
Yeah.
of course, we're not stupid, but
Yeah.
It's a guide, not an
it's a,
answer.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
guide. So it kind of helps us be able to then advocate even better for
Yes.
ourselves
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
well, I've noticed that Anne says that, she couldn't see the person in front of her until last minute. And I've noticed that too. So maybe it could be something similar.
Hmm.
And then you're able to then kind of narrow down as opposed to such a huge and broad list. I mean, there's over 7,000 unique diseases and syndromes. You don't want to go through all that testing.
No. No. And sometimes like you've got this feeling, but you don't know how to articulate it, right?
Right.
So when you hear from someone else, it's like, oh yeah, like that's what I'm experiencing too. And that's something you can bring to your doctors and stuff like that. It's like, hey, this is the situation.
Or even if you know what it is, sometimes you may seem like you're feeling what's the word? I hate my brain sometimes. Like a symptom, that's it,
Yes.
that may seem unique and you can't necessarily figure it out on Dr. Google. And you talk to somebody who has a similar or the exact same diagnosis, and they're like, I feel that too. That's
Yeah.
normal. Or that's not quite normal. You might want to get that checked out more. And
Yeah.
it brings us even more knowledge, I think, so that
Yeah.
we can help ourselves and each other
Yes.
instead of, being put in institutions like they did 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So, did you start writing after you went through this journey to share it, or were you into writing before all of this too?
I think that when I lost that first chapter, the grief, that's when I noticed that I had a little bit of a gift for writing and speaking, but that stayed hidden. for a long time because I went through all the other stuff. And it wasn't until going on social media and just writing captions in a storytelling way, and I really wanted to show how I could do visual storytelling as well, that I was realizing that there was something a little bit more that I could offer the world. And so I did have one lady who had met me through social media, and she was doing a book and she was having like 13 authors participate. So I was one of the authors, and just writing that little chapter just kept opening pathways for me. And then a publisher had reached out and asked me if I would like to do my own book. And so, at first I was, a lot of these things that came up, I was like, I don't know if I could do that, right? Because these were never in my life's plan.
Right.
Like the illness and vision loss, they hit me like a brick wall.
Hmm.
And I really didn't feel like I really had any future. I had no idea what the future actually held for me. But it was actually, once I had reached a point of acceptance and embracing it and sharing my story, that these pathways just seemed to open up for me. And at that point, you're like, I got nothing to lose. I might as well go for
Right.
it.
And one of your
So I went
quotes
for it.
that really resonated with me was, to grieve is to honor the love you shared. To heal is to honor yourself. And I love that, because I think it's amongst any kind of grief, whether it's, loss of a pet, or, a loved one, or loss of your disability progresses and things like that. And it's such a beautiful quote. And how did you come up with that? Like, was it just in, like, you were asleep and I got it moment? Because sometimes when I come up with stories that I want to write, it's in the middle of the night and I'm asleep, and I'll wake up and I'm like, yes, I have to write that down.
It's honestly like that. A lot of it, I felt for a long time writer's block really bad, and I had a year to write this book, and I probably didn't really start it till like September. And then I was like, whoa, I gotta get this. And I had it always in my head of sort of how it would go, but wasn't writing it down. So as I started to really just pour myself into it, a lot of these thoughts had come to me, and these quotes. And I think they were with me in through all the chapters of my life, and they just kind of stayed in the back of my mind, but I had not written them down. But as I was going through my chapters and re-examining my life, basically, uh, I came to a lot of understanding and a lot of wisdom through them, and which I'm so grateful for. But yeah, it's even when I was writing my TEDx, I could tell you, like, I think I got accepted like in the summer of that year, and the TEDx was in November, and by September, I still didn't have my TEDx yet, and then they were selling tickets, and I was like, oh my goodness, I have nothing to offer. And then it hit, and that tends to be common with me, where it's like I have a lot of procrastination as well too, but it doesn't hit me until afterwards, and then when it does, it's like magic that comes
Hmm.
out. But yeah, like I was just like, I actually was crying. I was like, they're selling tickets and I don't have talk. I have nothing.
Speaking of the TEDx, what was that like? I love
Yeah.
watching the TED Talks and everything. That had to have been an amazing experience.
It was an amazing experience, and I only had started public speaking in about January of that year. I went through like a speech class, and it was held by blind and visually impaired community. So we would have an idea of where to look in the camera and things like that, and how to speak off the cuff. And then I had won a speaking contest, and then I won a one-on-one with Zoe Harris, the person that I won the speaking contest with, and I got to do a talk with a women's group, and I was like just on this high, right?
Yes.
And then there was an application for TEDx, and I was like, oh, I'll just apply, and not thinking that I would get it, but I just wanted to see what the process was like. And I got through the first round, and you had to pitch yourself for like 3 minutes, and that's hard. And then
Hmm.
the next round, you have to pitch yourself for a minute, and plus there's a written application as well. And I don't know how I made it through each one, but I made it. And then they said, yes, you're chosen. And I was like, oh, I have to do this now.
And I think
So
those types of things are
That's
the best sometimes, is when, because it pushes you to
it
do
really
something that you
does.
really wouldn't do normally.
Yes.
And it kind of, like, I'm a big procrastinator myself. I will wait the last possible second And even then, I'll be like, do I really? Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, especially for us procrastinators, that's when our best work is that when
Yes.
we're at,
Yeah.
under the gun and it's like, I got to do it now. And I think it's really kind of neat to be able to go through that process. And I think that is so awesome that you got to do a TED Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that, never on my bucket list or anything, but when you get faced with these opportunities, you can either run straight into it or like run away, right?
Right.
And honestly, I have nothing to lose. I have no job. I have nothing. Right? So I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna go for it, right? And do my best. But what I actually learned in the process is continually trying and showing up was the best thing. And in that cohort of TEDx speakers, they were like people who went to Harvard, they were like lawyers, they were all in five things. And then they're like, What do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm just a mom."
And
But because I continually showed up,
mhm.
I was ready when it came time to presenting. And the other ones, because they were so used to being on stage before, they didn't feel like they had to work so hard. And so they ended up not being ready. So, and I had done so well and finally had made it to, writing my speech that I ended up getting the coveted spot of the closing
Wow.
TEDx talk for that day.
Wow.
So it shows that, what, as long as you keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep going and keep showing up, even though you have no idea what you're doing, just keep going. And I think that's been the lesson that I've learned through all of this is to just keep going.
Yes. And I think that's a beautiful lesson because so many times you get just when you're not disabled, you stop yourself a lot because you think, like, I'm just a mom. What do I know? And we shouldn't limit ourselves. Being a mom is very important.
Yeah.
Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a mother too, and
Yeah.
it's
It's the
difficult.
hardest job.
Yeah,
the
it's
hardest job.
extremely hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're more than just a mom. We are the banker, the hero, the doctor, the nurse, and all of these things wrapped up in one. And because of that, we are truly prepared for way more than we give ourselves credit for.
Yes. And we should not shrink ourselves.
Yes.
And that's what I kept doing to myself, is shrinking myself. And I realized, you know what? No, I can do this. And I realized when I can do it, I actually can do it well.
Yeah.
And that's something I think because I didn't have that strength when I was a kid, but I see it now as an adult that I can do it.
Yeah. And
And
sometimes, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think rejection is a big thing a lot of people are really scared of. Like my brother went to school, always wanted to be a writer, but he wouldn't go for it because he was afraid of the rejection. And then
Yeah.
we got to a point where we were into the paranormal and ghosts and stuff, and we wrote 2 books, got published. I helped push it and push them through it. So we got 2 books published on the paranormal, and that feeling when you get that letter of, yes, we would like your work, or yes, we would like you, it's an amazing feeling. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
kind of makes you realize it's worth all the rejection you go through to get to that point.
Exactly. It was just waiting for that right moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may not be right now, but it will come.
Exactly. And
don't
if
give
you,
up.
Yeah, if you give up
Yeah.
though, after one rejection or, a no and all that stuff, then you could be missing out on the absolute most wonderful thing to happen to you.
Absolutely. You just never know. Yeah. This path has like brought me to things that I have had no clue I'd ever, have a chance to do. And it recently is like acting in a commercial. And I was like, what? Like, who would
Yes,
have thought?
that
Yeah,
is awesome.
That was really cool.
Yes, and being able to, the technology that they're coming out with,
Yeah.
that in that commercial that you did, and everybody, if you're wondering what commercial I'm talking about, please go to Anne's page.
Yeah.
She has it there, and it is awesome that
And
that's
it's
coming up.
I feel like it was always meant to be able to do that. Because I mean, in my Instagram stories, I pretend I'm the passenger princess because I don't drive. Like, I'm just going to be me looking out the window and looking out the sunroof. And then to actually be the commercial where I'm in a car is like, wow.
Yeah. How did that come about? If you don't mind talking about that.
Oh, I had gotten cast with a talent manager back in November. It was from From another podcast I'd done, I there was a gentleman on accessibility, and he had wanted me to try out for a Netflix part. So I didn't get that. They liked it and everything, but I guess I just had my little audition thing like on the platform, and then they were looking for visually impaired person, and they had like questions that they asked us, and I was just to answer them, and they're very similar to what I do every week on my Instagram, like through my lens, how I see the world, and they really liked it. And it was a very quick turnaround time. And they were looking for someone in Canada. And so the day that I think it was like a Tuesday that I auditioned, I think I heard like the Wednesday. And then they're like, can you fly out to Chile? So I was out to Chile for that weekend.
Oh,
So it was
wow.
very, very quick. Yeah. Yeah. And actually had no idea what commercial or what I was actually filming for because it was very hush hush. And basically, we're just driving in the desert, and and they're just asking me these questions, and they're filming me. So that that's how that came about. And then it wasn't until later that I realized which brand it was. But it was a very unique experience, and I was just floored to be part of it.
Is that commercial only aired in on Canada stations?
No, it's a worldwide commercial, so it's actually only Europe.
Okay.
Okay.
So not North America, but you can find it on YouTube. It's there.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That is not to fangirl or something, but I think it's
It's
awesome
it
that
is.
I get to talk to somebody who's been in a commercial and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I think it's, and that kind of goes back to even if you don't necessarily 100% believe in yourself, try it
Yeah.
anyway.
Try it anyways. You know what? And what's the worst answer is no,
Right.
right? And after that, it's like, yeah, just keep on moving on.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd say to anyone, that is struggling with a disability and illness is you never know what your future holds for you. And it can feel really, really bleak, but on the other side, it can be the most amazing thing.
Yeah. And sometimes, I hate to say it like this, but the disability can be the best thing that
Yeah.
has happened to
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
there,
honestly, for me, that I feel like I losing my vision has been the best thing that's ever happened to me because I actually now see with my heart. And I'm more open and I listen more and I'm discovering things that I never would have thought about.
and
So
I
it's been,
close my eyes when I go on your page and I listen to you talk about what you see. And I feel like it's so much more descriptive and that I'm more there than just looking at a picture
yeah,
myself.
yeah.
And
I've been attending theater with audio description, and the experience is so much more richer than I ever could have imagined because they'll describe the sets, and as if I was sitting there, I would have even have noticed that. I would have no clue. So getting that extra detail has been incredible.
it's not like huge paragraphs or anything like that. It's just simple, but yet
Simple.
it's
Yeah.
so, I guess, like poignant.
Mhm.
And so it kind of hits me and it's just like, wow, that is so much better than what I see with my own eyes.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. Sometimes I wonder, because it's not like I'm a viral sensation or anything like. I just put out my stuff and I hope that it lands with someone and that they enjoy it as much as I do.
I can't imagine anybody not enjoying it, honestly. I mean, it's really awesome to see those through your eyes. And, yeah, my eyes work. I can see with my glasses, but sometimes you kind of get jaded with your own senses and you don't get to see the true beauty in a lot of things because all of your senses are working, so you take them for granted. And then actually getting to talk to somebody who is missing one of those senses and hear it from their point of view, it's like being a toddler and rediscovering the world again.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that and I just came back from traveling too, and I think the one word that I have is like wonder. I'm just like, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah,
I,
and
I wanted to ask you about the traveling. I
Yeah.
kind of watched you travel through your social media. Is that something you've always kind of enjoyed doing? And it seems like you've gone to some pretty
awesome.
awesome places.
Yeah. I didn't travel a lot, like, in my book, in those chapters, those years. But when I got the diagnosis of losing my vision, the thing that popped into my head was making visual bucket lists.
Okay.
What do I want to see? And the first thing that I did was want to watch the sunrise and the sunset. Like I just want to see that very moment where the sun just dips down. And I just wanted to savor every moment because you realize how important it is. You don't know when or how much you're going to lose at one point in time. So I've always made it a point for when I travel is to see those sunrises and sunsets and to what is it that I want to get out of this trip, like visually, so that I can just kind of memorize them in my head. That's my goals when I go travel now.
And
Yeah,
it shows.
that's
It's beautiful. Like, just the pictures you take and everything is just really beautiful. And I can't think of a better word for than that. And you know, you got to go to Japan,
Yeah.
and that those pictures were awesome.
yeah.
Oh,
Especially like the cherry trees. I
cherry,
was
yes.
dying.
Yeah.
I
Cherry
wanted to
blossoms are
go.
so beautiful. And it was interesting because we had one week in Tokyo and the blooms were just blooming at that time. And then the wind blows and the petals, it's like snow. And then we were on a cruise ship after we went around coastally around Japan. And it was almost like we were chasing the cherry blossoms because they were all blooming, starting to bloom at different times. So it was so neat to see the different ones. And I've always loved them here. But you see these images on Pinterest or whatever. It's like, and I'm like, yeah, I want to see that too.
Yes.
I just want to, and like the scent, and I just want to be there, and experience the whole thing. So that for me was a big, big dream come true.
And that's awesome to be able to do that. And a lot of people, I think, kind of also get a little worried because of being disabled
Yeah.
that, well, they shouldn't go flying or they shouldn't, travel. And you should.
You should. And you know what? Like people think there's not a lot of accessibility out there, but I actually found like, and I used to hate the airports because it was so overwhelming. You go through security, it's really anxiety provoking. But I've learned that the accessibility team is there for you. So I'll wear the sunflower lanyard, and they immediately know that you know what, just let her take her time. And I actually feel safe. Like the journey through the airport is way easier now than just going like in my neighborhood because I know through every step of the way someone is guiding me, and so that has relieved a lot of the travel stress. And then just knowing how to advocate for yourself and speaking up on the airplanes itself, and then just knowing, you know what, take your time. You can't see everything, you can't do everything that you want to do, but just take your time and just enjoy it. And that there's so much to see and learn when you're traveling.
Yeah, I mean, not just other cultures, but just the land,
Hmm.
how they cultivate it and the beauty of their trees and their grasses and just it. I've always been interested in seeing all of those different countries because, I mean, America itself is gorgeous going from coast to coast because of the different temperatures. And being able to see others would be awesome. Like, I love the cherry trees. I've
Yes,
seen them in DC, which they're gorgeous
yes,
there. My parents have some, and where we live in Bethlehem, there's a tree lined street that has the cherry blossoms too. And it's gorgeous, but I would
yes,
love to see them in Japan.
yes, yes. And you know what? Japan was the most accessible country I've ever been to experience. I was very, very impressed and happily surprised. It was a relief. Like I didn't feel, and I felt so safe there too. Like I've never been anywhere where I felt so safe, like I didn't have to worry. So that was something I really, really appreciated. And it's something, that knowledge that I can bring back home here too. I work with, I help the city just with, through my own lens, looking at municipal buildings, and parks and rec to see how we can improve it in terms of accessibility. So I get to learn and then I get to bring it back. And so that's been something that I'm so proud to be able to do now.
And that's
Yeah,
another awesome thing. Sorry,
it
I
is.
keep saying awesome, but I mean, part of it is my age. I'm 47. I'm allowed to say awesome. I'm old.
But oh, I'm right. I'm older than you, so it's okay. I say a
And
lot of things, and my kids are like, "What?"
yep, yeah, mine are like, dude, that's so old. It's like, oh, shut up.
No, we are so cool.
Yes, we
Really.
are.
We are really cool.
You're gonna wish you were cool like us.
Yes, that's right.
Being able to see all of that and do all of that is, again, it's awesome. And you just want to kind of giggle at that stuff
Yeah,
because those doors, imagine those doors would not be open if you didn't step through them. And
absolutely.
you wouldn't have thought to step through them if, unfortunately, you didn't lose
Hmm.
your eyesight. And like for me, if I didn't start losing the feeling in my legs and with the pain that I have in my legs, I wouldn't have gotten a chance to meet all of you and go do this again, which is, being able to do a podcast. Because
Yeah,
Mike and I used to do radio a long time ago and we loved it. And then we
yeah,
stopped. And this is kind of getting a chance to do it again. And
yes,
my way of giving back and promoting and being an advocate, because there's certain things I can't do because I can't march. I'm sorry, I can't do it. And I hate calling people, but this I can do. And
yeah,
this is my way of giving back and saying talking to these people and having you guys come on here and telling not only your diagnoses, but saying, I'm thriving. I am human, hear me roar, whatever it is, stupid cliche you want to come up with, is my way of saying, if you're going to take shit from us, we are going to give it right back, and we're going
yes,
to take what we deserve
yes,
because we deserve so much.
yes. And you're uplifting the voices, like bringing these stories in uplifts voices, and it allows that ripple effect to really get out there. And that's how we make, change.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be big, advocates marching around, but you know what? Just showing up and living your life and living it the way you want to live it is advocating, and that's
Yes.
great.
Because
Yeah.
not everybody can, boycott. Sometimes
No.
it's hard to boycott everything, and sometimes you can't call. Sometimes you can't write. But if you can find what you can do, and even
Hmm.
if it's just one thing, do it
Yeah.
because it helps
Do
all
it.
of us.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And you
some
never know who you're helping and the
Right.
effect that you're having up there.
and sometimes you just don't know what to say. I think that was
Yeah.
my biggest problem for a long time. I knew there were problems out there. I knew things were wrong, but I didn't know what to say or how to say it. And that even affected like our relationship
Yeah.
because I would word it in a way that she didn't take kindly. So doing this has helped our relationship
Yeah.
too because it helped kind of teach me different
How to
things
speak
and
up
how
and
to
yeah.
speak up and how to
Yeah.
advocate. And it helps
Yeah.
me understand things that I don't necessarily feel or see.
Hmm. And then that's the biggest lesson for anybody out there, because they may not know, but they want to help, but they're not sure how. But when we open our mind, that's the biggest thing you can do, and that's helping everybody too,
Right.
right? Just being open-minded.
And sometimes it takes, hearing it from somebody else. Because sometimes when you're dealing with it yourself, the marginalization and oh, well, you don't look disabled or whatever ridiculous comment comes your way, sometimes you can't step back and be objective and find the right words.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to do this, is that I want to give you the right words to say. Because I have a hell of a time standing up for myself. But
Yeah.
I will stand up. I will be a tank for anybody else if
Yeah.
anybody says something wrong. And that's just how I am. And so this is kind of my way of being that tank, that, the person in front saying, fuck you.
Yeah.
You're not getting
Yeah.
through me first. And it's, sometimes that's good enough too. And,
Yeah.
because like I was beating myself up thinking, well, how can I do things to advocate and help and share our voices without coming off as, ridiculous or like I'm just performing and, things like that. And it was, what was it exactly? Like we were sitting in the car because that's
car.
where we have our best conversations without the kids. And I was saying it how I felt so alone and empty and just, I see all of this horror and I want to fix it. But how do I fix it when I'm just me? And then I kind of started thinking, well, I want to do something with, podcast or radio again. And then it's like it grew from there. And it's like, you know what? Why don't we advocate that way? That's something I can do. That's something
Absolutely.
and I can't say it enough. Being able to talk to you guys has healed me. It made me feel like I'm not alone, that I'm a human again, and all of it's healed my little inner child and everything. And I know it sounds, silly to say, but that's true. And
It's true.
it didn't realize at how much it would affect me being able to do this. And I thank you all. And
Oh, we thank you too. And I think a lot of our inner childs, like if we could have gotten our inner childs together,
yes,
and know that, like, you know what, we will be okay.
go out for
That would have helped us
milkshakes
a lot. Yeah.
with sprinkles.
Yeah.
And
Because, when we look back at our childhood and things, if we had known that we would be okay, it would have helped us a lot, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we will be okay
Yeah.
because we're not giving up on ourselves and we're not giving up on each other. And we're gonna, if you can't get up and do anything, and that's okay too, we're here. We'll fight for you.
Yes.
And, if all you can do is just share one of our pictures or our posts or our podcast episodes, that's doing something too. So, and that's kind of, I think, what we need to learn as well as for advocating is that we don't have to do the marches all the time.
No.
We don't necessarily have to be on the picket line to make a change. And that was part of what was killing me was I thought that's the only way that you could do it. And, I get horrible anxiety with calling people.
I don't like calling people.
No, I get anxiety calling the doctor
Yeah.
for myself or my kids.
I procrastinate. I'm like,
Yes.
oh, yeah. I'm supposed to call a doctor. I'm like, yeah, I got to do that. Maybe tomorrow.
Exactly. I mean, I was supposed to call to get myself in for testing like Friday, and it is Wednesday. And so, that bothers me already. So trying to call like, a rep or your senator and all that stuff, I did it once. I can say I did it once, and I so wanted to barf.
Yeah. Even like if they had like they have templates and then just fill it. I have a hard time doing that.
Yeah,
too.
sometimes I do too. And
Yeah.
it's like I know what I want to say. And it's like I have all of these ideas that I want to say. But as soon as like I try to call or try to write and it's like what? And so I just wanted to find a better way that I could definitely do to make
Yes.
a difference. And I love making a difference. And I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn here. But it's just, I feel so good about being able to make a difference that
Yeah.
I want everybody to come on here. Not at the same time, please, but, and talk to us and have fun and share your stories. And
Absolutely.
I thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so glad that we connected.
Me too.
And it's through social media that we
Yeah.
connected.
I
Yeah.
can't wait to be able to physically meet you.
Me too.
I
That
would
be
love to do that.
wonderful.
And,
I would love to give a big hug. Both of you guys,
yes.
big hug.
Yes, I would love that. And, everybody, I would love to give big hugs because we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And the more that we can help each other even get through one day, because sometimes it's hard. We all know that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
being able to help each other get through that one day makes such a huge difference.
And just feeling that connection, that we are in this together.
You are one of the first people I was able to find and follow. And seeing your stuff is what truly helped get me over a lot of my humps. And just kind of seeing how you were thriving and how you were, moving forward, even though you had a catastrophic disease. And honestly, I'm like tearing up and I'm trying not to, but it's so I wanted to be able to pay it back, pay it forward. And, you and a few other people that I've mentioned before were the catalyst for giving me this push this idea. And thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that we can make a difference. I think, and then as more of us come together, and we all have the same, heart-led and
Mm-hmm.
heart-centered way of doing things. This is how we can change the world.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I do have days where I like to sit there and plot on how to take
Yeah.
over the world so that
Yeah.
we can all run it together.
Yeah.
Just like Pinky and the Brain, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
Before we go, because we are coming near the end here, did you want to let people know how to find you, how to find your book, stuff like that?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at Purpose in View. That's where I am mainly. I do have TikTok, but I don't use that too much. I have a website. It's purposeinview.com. And you can find my book, Resilience and Purpose, on Amazon and any major retailers. You can get that, and it's on an ebook as well. Currently starting to work on the audiobook portion, so stay tuned for that. And my TEDx is on YouTube. It's called Blindsided by Anne Mok. And then there's the commercial you can also watch. It's on Kia Worldwide, so Anne Mok as well.
That is
Thank
so
you
cool.
so
And
much for having me on.
thank you for doing all
Thank
of
you very
that
much.
you do. And I've enjoyed it. And hopefully we can talk to you again and,
Absolutely.
talk about like fashion or something.
Yeah,
Some girly
any-
stuff.
I'm game for any kind of chat.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Please leave a rating for us wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok.
Othering Podcast is brought to you by Loudcore Productions in conjunction with your support. Your host, Mike and Dory Morris, graphics by Joshua Morris, and join us next week on the Othering Podcast.